Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a new episode of the Right Info Podcast Show with your host, King Twan, on this Tuesday, November 9th, just a couple of days before Thanksgiving. Tonight, I want to discuss an issue that should be not only important to myself, but important to others. The issue is, the topic is, activism on social media varies by race, ethnicity, age, and political parties. Now, what that means is, for that an example, things are different due race, ethnicity, and political parties when it comes to social media. Different people use different social media outlets like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all them other things. But from what I'm going to give here is an important information and some info on how that comes about. Now, from a global protest against the racial injustice during the 2020 elections a couple of years ago. Now, some Americans who were using social media were taking these platforms to mobilize others and to show support for their causes or issues that were very important. But experiences and attitudes related to the political activities on social media vary by race, ethnicity, age, and political party. Democrats, Republicans, sometimes independents. Now, people being politically active on social media in many ways. They always are. Now, there's a survey that asks Americans about 4 different types of activities that they may have engaged in during the platforms. Now, overall, about 1/3 of social media users, that's 36%, say they have used sites like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and others, or link it, that's more like a business app, in the past several months, to post a picture to show their support for any cause, looking up information about the rallies or the protests happening in the area. Now, that's 35% of people who said that. Now, those are 35%. They're very much encouraging others, or they have encouraged others to take action on issues they regard as important. Now, that's 32%. A smaller share, 18%, reporting using a hashtag related to a political or social issue. Hashtag freedom now, hashtag stop the violence and police brutality. Those sort of examples that are used for expressing their political idealism or thoughts or views. But now, in certain activities, African American users stand out very largely. 48% of African American social media users have said, and they have stated, have posted a picture of certain things on social media to show their support for causes in the past months, several months, compared to with 37% of Hispanics and whites put together. Now, African American adults who use social media, that's 45%, are about most likely than their Hispanic, 33%, or white, 30%, counterparts to say that in the past months, they have taken to social media to encourage others to take action to protest things that are wrong, like police brutality, discrimination, job discrimination, or gender discrimination. And they encourage others to do that as well, which is very important to them. African American users are also more than likely, twice as likely, as white users to say they have used a hashtag, as I stated earlier, related to a political or social issue on these platforms. In the past months, of course, 33% versus 15%. That's a large percentage rate, while Hispanic users fall in between those two groups, which is 22%. Now, social media engagement for causes issues are always vary by age. Just over half of social media users age 18 to 29, which is 54%, say they have used these sites in the past months to look for information about rallies or protests happening not only in their area, but in other parts of the country or the world. Compared with 36% of those ages 30 to 49 years old. Wow, that's really something. So 50 to 64% is 20%. So older people are getting up there. Well, my apologies saying older people, but elderly people, they can be active too when they protest. They protest. And, people in the age of 30 are also more likely to do or say they have issues that they see as very important. While there's a smaller gap when it comes to posting a picture, the numbers still stand. They're still equal to each other. And of course, now racial differences are go in a sense of a present with a younger group, with young African American men and women, social media users being particularly likely to post hashtags or encourage others to be politically engaged. Advising them to join in a protest or a rally or whatever to protest something that is wrong, that's not right, to right a wrong that shouldn't even been wrote in the first place, to correct that right, to make sure that wrong is not committed again, no matter what it is. Now, for example, let me give everyone an example. 55% of African American social media users aged 18 to 49 say they posted pictures to show support for a cause in the past month. So they can either a past month, a couple of months, or whatever, compared to a few in 4 in Hispanics, 4 in 10 Hispanics, 37%, and white users, social media users, 36%, in the same range. Among adults under the age of 50, African American users, 44%, are more than likely to use a hashtag to say they have participated in a protest. There have been a lot of protests. There were protests a couple of years ago during the death of George Floyd. And not only did America protest, but the protests stretched out throughout the entire world, and everybody was just raging mad as hell about that. So hashtags were used during protests, during rallies, not just from African America, but there were some other minority groups that used hashtags to protest something that was wrong, that had rallies, and the various things that was continue on very much to this very day. We still have our protests, we have our rallies, but most of the things some people say are small, but those issues are still large, still matter, still have to be dealt with, still have to be discussed, have a kitchen table issue sort of a thing. And having discussed that, what ways do we as Americans, how do we fix that? How do we correct that? What is the right corrective way to discuss things as far as numbers is concerned when it comes to the rallies and the protests and the percentage point? Why one group is using more instead of over another group? It's not confusing, but, the numbers could very much come together equally, I guess, depending on what the protest is about, what the rally is about, what the situation is about. And hashtags have been used a lot, and using them a lot, it's like a kind of like a forward and backward backup. Like, we support this in front, and we got this behind our back, hashtag front, hashtag back. I'll just say that, that sort of thing. So with that very much being said, the information I'm giving you about the social media uses by many minority groups, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, hell, sometimes maybe even Snapchat. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, I love social media myself. I've never used it as a protest before, but the information is very informative. It's a lot to learn through the social media, and using it as a form of protest, that's being done today, even in our time. Like 30, 40 years ago, we didn't even have anything called social media. We didn't even know what social media is. Hell, we was all lucky to even have pagers and the early cell phones that came out. But, this is a big, heavy, tech-savvy Gen X, Gen Y, Z world as we live in, So what can you say? You can't argue them. They know the stuff. We know the stuff. We learn it every day. So with that being said, I'm just giving you all a full informative resource on social media on how the percentages are different alike around ethnic groups, people, and political parties. No, I didn't discuss political parties yet, but let me get into that right now. Political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, sometimes independents. 5 times out of 10, you will mostly see Democrats using social media over Republicans. I don't know why, because I guess the nickname with the GOP is called Grand Old Party. I don't want to be biased against a political party. I don't want to do that, I'm just saying, what can you foster with one party using social media over the other? You use it for voter registration, voter get out the vote events, casting ballots, holding events to get people to vote, to increase their numbers at the polls. Hey, both parties do it. There's no different. One party's not different from the other, as long as they're getting out the vote. But the way I see it through the research that I've done, 5 out of 10 social media users, the vote getting were mostly Democrats compared to some that were Republicans. They don't use it as much. They use it as much, but very much in an old style way. Back in the day, during the political days, you had the pavement pounding, baby kissing, backslapping, ways of getting out the vote. Now we just turn to social media, we turn to various outlets in order to see what the politicians are doing, what they're doing, and how they're doing in order to get the vote. But basically, for the last several years since social media has been around, it's been succeeding. I have to say that. So, just giving you all a nice little rundown on how that works, how things are going with social media and the differences between the age groups, the ethnicities, the cultures, and the political parties. This is just a new podcast I'm delivering tonight on this cold, blurry Tuesday evening, a couple of days before Thanksgiving. We're all going to have our turkey dressing, cranberry sauce, macaroni and cheese, and chitlins. I don't know. Maybe some people eat chitlins. I like them. They're okay. Throw a little hot sauce on them. Hey, what can you say? They're good. But, not to get off the subject, just give y'all a little pre-Thanksgiving idea of what I have. And with that being said, this is the end of the Right Info podcast show with your host, King Twan. Hope everybody have a joyful and sweet and relaxing Tuesday evening. Good night. Love you all.